Stop 1.
My name is Sarah Schroth. I'm the director of the Nasher Museum of Art at Duke University. We are extremely proud to present this exhibition, People Get Ready, Building a Contemporary Collection. Since we opened in 2005, the Nasher's been steadfast in building a major contemporary collection with a special focus on artists of African descent. And this makes our museum truly unique. We select every work of art in this collection for its quality and significance, as well as its ability to generate new thought and meaningful conversations. Enjoy this inspirational work by some of the most exciting artists of our time.
Stop 2.
My name is Baria, and I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia, and I live in Brooklyn, New York. And this is my piece, CCG, and this is the piece that was acquired by the Nasher Museum. CCG depicts an interior where 3 characters are apparently in the process of assembling a 4th character, a human-bird hybrid. A seated woman plucks feathers from a bird pitched atop her hand, while another seems to be placing those same feathers into the wing of the hybrid. To the right of the hybrid, a 4th figure mirrors the position of the woman inserting the feathers, instead bracing the hybrid's shoulder and holding his hand. Above the seated woman is some sort of shrine, in where a small jaguar has curled up, and besides the shrine are 2 framed posters of what may be a morbid instruction manual for the scene depicted. Paper dolls show arms being removed from women, wings being removed from birds, and then combined to form a creature like a hybrid below. A scenery vine wraps itself past these posters and around the shrine. Much of these vines straddle the floor and twine around some of the other furniture depicted in the piece. Death's tendrils likewise twist throughout the work. The walls themselves are a riot of colorful deterioration, a decaying sunset. A dead bird sprawls out on a stool, while 2 others hang from a nail in the wall. The jaguar perched in the shrine, and a large cheetah below, a meat grinder affixed to a table. All hint the violence bubbling below. There is indisputable a dark, sinister element to the work. Yet this is ultimately a painting about hope and redemption. The first indication of such theme is literally spelled out on the instruction poster, which reads, "Cómo ser libre," how to be free. CCG is a preparation for a journey, the germination of the seeds. The migrant must forego a great deal, as the known world resides into the past, so to do the things that define and make one human. An essential part of oneself must be removed to be free. There is so much to give up. Perhaps death tendrils again make their appearance here, for what is a greater and more difficult transition than death? What could be a truer path to freedom in many religious notions than the soul's winged migration from the body?
Stop 3.
Hi, this is Adria Gunther, and I work at Visitor Services at the Nasher Museum of Art. Ebony G. Patterson's arresting multimedia work, shortly after 8 Beyond the Blades, presents an eerie dissonance between its dazzling visuals and the somber subject it wrestles with. A dynamic mixture of vibrant colors and textures, the forest-like scene appears to be a festive celebration of life and vitality. However, underneath the masses of glitter and long strips of patterned fabrics, a black male lies unconscious, staring lifelessly into space. Here, Patterson investigates the politicization of race, class, and gender, specifically focusing on how Black men are systematically marginalized and ultimately discarded on a global scale. The colorful, glitzy materials, inspired by Caribbean dance hall aesthetics, are a staple feature of Patterson's collage work, She often uses these elements in excess, sometimes so much that they spill or ooze from the canvas. Together, the materials function to mask what lies underneath them, a direct commentary on how society tends to selectively appreciate Blackness and Black cultures without acknowledging the injustice that continues to thwart them.
Stop 4.
My name is Stacy Lynn Waddell. I am an artist. I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up in a small town called Lewisburg, North Carolina, which is somewhere near the Virginia border. So this is Self-Portrait, Silver and Burn from 2017, and I tend to make portraits in general. Self-portraits are somewhat less normal for me to make, and last fall I was participating in a residency at the Joan Mitchell Center in New Orleans, and I started thinking about myself, my history, my origin, and how the materials and processes that I use to make art relate to that narrative, that origin story. And I use materials and tools that aren't necessarily art tools. They aren't common to art supply stores. And one of those processes and one of those tools is a wood burning tool. And a wood burning tool is used generally and considered as a craft tool. It's an electric stylus that allows you to burn or carve into wood and sometimes into leather. And I use it on paper because I can make tiny marks that on the surface, once the image is complete, look like an etching or a carving of some type, but also allow me to keep track of this idea of time. These drawings take quite a bit of time to make, and I enjoy knowing that my hand made every mark on the page. And so those marks relate to my being able to keep time. They also relate to the amount of layers that it takes to make the work, but those layers equate to a kind of layering that happens when you're building a life. And so all of that wrapped together is sort of how I think about drawing in terms of slow, meditative processes that allow me to weave together these layers that create images that are really meditations. They're also, in some ways, monuments, but always me wanting to keep a record of my experience as an artist, because those experiences mean, they mean the most to me in terms of making. This is actually from a photograph that Jay took of me here at the Nasher. First of all, I hate having my picture taken. I will avoid, but I have learned over the years that when you come to the Nasher, especially when you come to an opening, Jay will find you. He finds you, and especially if he knows you and he's cool with you, he really finds you. So coming here, I have to get used to that. But what I found in those images was the sort of directness of the gaze. I don't have any images of myself like that aside from like school pictures, where that's basically you're frozen in that kind of like relationship with the camera. You're looking directly at it. But in these, there was something that was more genuine about who I am as a person. I think they captured something. And the gaze for me, and the gaze for any portrait situation is important. I mean, it's something that kind of leads the viewer, brings the viewer inside. The subject has a kind of relationship with the viewer when there is that direct gaze, and I think it offers some kind of meaning to the portrait that you don't get when you don't get to have that experience. I don't know if if it makes it more intimate or what, but I think that there is something kind of, and in some cases it's kind of, there's a kind of bombast to, an image, a portrait, or even a photographic portrait, any kind of human figure that gazes directly out at the viewer, so.
Stop 5.
Hi, my name is Genevieve Gaignard. I'm born and raised in Orange, Massachusetts, and now I live and work in Los Angeles. I'm standing here with 3 of the 5 works acquired by the Nasher Museum as part of the show, People Get Ready. So this photograph was shot in New Orleans as part of Prospect 4 that was curated by Trevor. And this particular photograph is referencing a story told to me by my father about my grandparents. My grandfather was a lot darker than my grandmother, and often when they were walking down the street, my grandfather was asked, "Why are you walking with that white woman?" So maybe at first glance this is an interracial couple, but at the same time it's talking about that story from my personal history. So this piece was shot in Los Angeles, very close to my studio. In preparation for the photograph, I got all dolled up, mostly in my own clothing, and then topped it off with this luscious afro wig, and just started to wander around town until I came across this amazing car. The sun was setting, and in Los Angeles, the light is pretty amazing, so it just became the moment that this photograph was taken.
Stop 6.
I'm Marshall Price, curator of modern and contemporary art here at the Nasher Museum. And here we see Nina Chanel Abney's painting, Hobson's Choice, from 2017. Nina Chanel Abney is a young artist who makes large, colorful, figurative paintings that often deal with hot-button subjects. In this painting, Hobson's Choice, we see 2 figures violently clashing with one another. The figure on the left, African American, and the figure on the right, a pastiche of perhaps multiple ethnicities. The painting was created in the fall of 2017, not long after the violent clashes that occurred in Charlottesville, Virginia. The painting's title, Hobson's Choice, essentially refers to the choice between something unwanted or nothing at all, essentially a non-choice. In the painting, the artist seems to be making a commentary on the cultural events of our country and the racial dynamics that have been prevalent over the last several years.
Stop 7.
Hi, this is Mycroft Zimmerman. I'm a Duke undergraduate, class of 2020. The beautiful ones are not yet born, might not hold true for much longer, is an intimate portrait of a woman that unites painting and collage. Because the subject's back is turned, the viewer must rely on the collaged images that form the rug, coffee table, and baseboard to imagine what she might be thinking. Made from Xerox transferred photographs drawn from family photo albums, advertisements, and Nigerian periodicals, their muted, static-like appearance suggests that these pictures might represent this woman's memories or perhaps a collective cosmopolitan cultural memory. By using this technique in her work, Njideka Akunyili-Crosby calls attention to the boundaries between Nigerian and Western culture, individual and societal experiences, as well as the boundaries that separate the historical past from the present and future. The artist embraces these contradictions and explains, quote, "I extrapolate from my training in Western painting to invent a new visual language that represents my experience, which at times feels paradoxically fractured and whole as a cosmopolitan Nigerian."
Stop 8.
Hi, I'm Jeff Whetstone, and I am currently residing in Princeton, New Jersey, but I lived in Durham, really just quite a mile over that way for 15 years, and I'm really glad to have this piece in the show. It's called Drawing E. obsoleta, and Elafe obsoleta is the scientific name for the black rat snake, which is kind of a common reptile around here. And I guess the concept of the piece was I would go catch a black rat snake and then remove it from its home environment and then sketch the home environment, the foothills of North Carolina, the Piedmont, with the snake itself. In an effort to, I guess, all my work has to do about place and landscape and belonging to a place or feeling alienated from a place. So I don't know if you need to know all that to see the piece, but I think what came out of that conceit was the struggle between the hand and the line, or between man and nature, and maybe that the line is its own animal. It's a creative act that you can't control. So something about about this notion of drawing being a hand that lays down a line, but in this case, the line itself is actually guiding the hand.
This audio guide has 2 more stops. Please head out into the Great Hall and into the collection galleries in Wilson Pavilion. People Get Ready continues first in the Modern Gallery and then concludes in the Art of the Americas Gallery. Stop 9.
Hi, I'm Ayubi Kokai. I go to Riverside High School and I'm a member of the Nasher Teen Council. Henry Clay Anderson, Motorcycle Riders, circa 1960, printed in 2007. Henry Clay Anderson captured images of everyday life in the middle-class black community of Greenville, Mississippi, at the height of Jim Crow. A local photographer who ran a studio in Greenville for over 30 years, Anderson's work was not widely known outside of his community until hundreds of negatives and original prints, taken over the course of many decades, were discovered shortly before his death in 1998. In the mid-20th century, the visual narrative of Greenville and the surrounding Mississippi Delta region was largely framed by Northern photographers who came to capture familiar tropes of slave descendants, segregation, and the adversity faced by African American Southerners. Very few depicted thriving, prosperous, middle-class black communities. Anderson was a pillar in his community, teaching school and at one point running for political office. He took pride in photographing his surroundings, capturing, in addition to formal portraits in his studio, local beauty pageants, weddings, community events, proms, and informal portraits in people's homes. Motorcycle Riders was taken on the sidewalk outside of the photographer's studio. The window advertisement reading, "Anderson Photo Service," is just visible. During a turbulent time in American history, Anderson's photographs celebrate Greenville's black community by highlighting its resilience and complexity, and by portraying its members at their aspirational best.
Stop 10.
My name is Pedro Lash, and I'm a visual artist and a professor at Duke University. I also direct the Social Practice Lab at the Franklin Humanities Institute. My work of Black Mirror is in the People Get Ready exhibition as part of the collection. And it actually belongs to a broader series called Black Mirror, Espejo Negro, that was commissioned and produced for the Nasher in 2008 when the museum held its blockbuster exhibition, Del Greco to Velázquez. It was a contemporary artwork that complemented that exhibition, and we therefore wanted to have one piece from that series in the permanent collection. The work exists, I think, very happily as part of People Get Ready in the Mesoamerican collection because it was actually designed originally when that collection was in the basement of the institution. When the Nasher was designed and built and opened, the pre-Columbian collection was kept in storage for some years. And this was the context in which I designed Black Mirror. So a very crucial part of the Black Mirror project at the time was to bring a lot of these incredible works up for public display. So to some extent, the fact that they now exist permanently on display in the Mesoamerican room is I think, a very happy incident that connects to the history of my project. The work that you see in the gallery of the Mesoamerican collection is in direct conversation with other works in the gallery, just for the sake of them being the Mesoamerican works. But it also bridges with other civilizations and periods. So actually you see in it a Zurbarán painting. And if you look closely, you'll see that things that happened in the installation where people saw themselves reflected with the faces, their own faces, merging with those of the pre-Columbian sculptures. They also saw these ghosts of the Baroque paintings that were behind the glass. In the photographic series that were made from the installation, you actually see some of the same effect. It's deliberate that you can see your reflection in this work. Usually when dark artworks are hung, especially photographic works, they're not hung behind glass, and if they are lit very carefully so that people are not reflected in them. In this case, we actually want to do the opposite because our own reflection and the space of the room reflected in the work is part of the artwork. Even the scale in these photographs is done exactly to the scale of the pre-Columbian works. That is what determines the size of each print in the suite. So the sculpture of Ecatl that you see, this pre-Columbian figure in this work, is actually the same size in the original as it shows in the photograph.